Good, thank you. All right, let's proceed. So the laws of indices. So we'll start with the first law. And the first law is the law of multiplication, which says a to the m times a to the n equals a to the m plus n. All right? And you should know it in English as well, which says in the English version, and you don't need to write out the English version, you can get it from the recording. In English, you would say, whenever two numbers with the same base but different powers and we're multiplying them, we keep the base, we add the powers. So two numbers with the same base, different powers, and we're multiplying, we keep the base and we add the powers. That is the first law. Then we have the second law, and the second law is called the law of division. And the law of division says a to the m divided by a to the n equals a to the m minus n. That's the mathematical form. In English, we say two numbers with the same base, different powers, and we're dividing. We keep the base, we subtract the powers. So two numbers with the same base, different powers, and we're dividing. We keep the base, we minus the powers. Then we have the third law, and that is the law of zero index. And the law of zero index says a to the 0 equals 1. In English, you say any base raised to the 0 power equals 1. Any base raised to the 0 power equals 1. Note, take note that the third law is an extension of the second law, because if I have a to the m divided by a to the m, that's going to be a to the m minus m, which is going to give me the a to the 0. And we know that a to the 0 is 1. So hence, the third law is but an extension of the second law. All right? That leads us to the fourth law, and that's the law of negative index, which is a to the negative n equals 1 over a to the n. Okay? Again, that is an extension of the second law. So you have to be very, very careful when you're dealing with these. That's one of the reasons why you'll notice as you go into higher levels of mathematics, when you go and do your bachelor's and so on, the number of indices laws changes because they realize or they start gearing you to notice that the third and the fourth law are only a subset, an extension, what they call a derivative of the second law. Very important. The fifth law is the law of power to power. And that says a to the m times a to the n equals a to the m times n, which is equal to a to the m n. Now, the fifth law is actually an extension of the first law. Okay? And we can show that as we move along, as we go into different sections. Okay? Now, the sixth law And the seventh law used to be a single law. Alright, it used to be just 6 laws. But in the late 80s, they decided that keeping it as a single law became problematic. People couldn't understand what the difference was. So they took and they broke it into 2 laws to make life easier for people. The first one is known as the law of fractional index number 1, which says a to the 1 over n, right, is equal to the nth root of a to the first. Okay? In other words, in fractional index number 1, the numerator is always 1. And then the law of fractional index number 2 says a to the m over n, so the numerator can be any value, is equal to the nth root of a to the m. So in this case, the numerator is any number other than 1. Okay? Other than 1. So here we have the 7 laws.